Ladies and germs, scumbags alike, we in this bitch. Episode 5?
4.
Episode 5? 4? 3, 2, 1? Episode 4. Yeah, episode 4. We made it to episode 4. Crazy. That's crazy. I just remember about 4 weeks ago, I'm going to come up with this podcast. It's going to last one episode, and then it's just going to die, or we're going to get banned, or both. But we in here, episode 4. I want to thank everyone in here, whether they're in here through the Twitch or through the YouTubes. I want to shout out everyone for coming through. Today I've got brand new guests, never before seen, all amongst the SMBF community, of course. With me, I have Cookweave. You might have heard him in the Waistman Wi-Fi tournaments or Waistman weekly tournaments, handing down that godlike commentary. So shout out to him. We have Sleeves, who's been as of recent a lot more active in the community, and it's beautiful to see. It's beautiful to hear. He's amongst the tournaments quite often, whether that's Tekken, repping the bear sweeps, the shenanigans, or whether that's Grand Blue Versus. And this man, you are going to get hit by his DPs. This man will DP you again and again and again, and just when you think he's going to stop, he'll do it again. So we got Sleeves in here, and we have this old geezer. This man doesn't even play fighting games. I don't even know why. I don't even know how he got in here, to be honest with you. But he in here, the boy Hurnyy, Jordan, my guy, known him since day. I want to shout you out, all of you, for coming through. What I like to do for each episode, as you all know, I like to do a little origin story of you all, like how you came to be in the fighting game community, how you came to get on this damn podcast, how you somehow finessed all that. Cookweave, if you wanna start off, man, give us a little intro about about yourself and how you got to this point with the FGC.
Yeah, can do. So I started playing fighting games probably when I was a little scrubby kid, like 4 years old. Soul Calibur 2 just came out, and of course that's where I started. That's my home turf. It's the game I love. I'll support it to the day I die. I think I started coming to SMBF about a year and a half ago. I think maybe I think it was mid 2018ish. And then I disappeared for a few months, and then since like early 2019, I've been there every week, holding it down.
Amen. Amen. And am I right in saying, because I know I'm almost certain that we all rolled up to Hype Spotting. I can't remember what year it was. I want to say 2017, maybe 16.
2017, yeah. I was there as well.
Yes, because you was there, because we remember seeing you at the airport.
Yes.
Yes, because you used to come every now and again to Waistman, like maybe rarely.
Yeah.
But then, like, sometimes you come, sometimes you wouldn't. And I specifically remember seeing you on the way there, like on the airport. You probably took the same flight.
Yeah, I did. I remember seeing you there as well.
Yeah, for sure. And what do you enter there with that Soul Calibur for that as well?
No, they weren't running it. I entered KOF 14 and SF5. God help me.
Oh God, SF5.
Yeah, SF5.
Damn. Yeah, well, nice. Well, no, again, like I said in the intro, you're well amongst it now. Playing them games, not so much Tekken right now. I know you haven't been entering much Tekken with the COVID situation. I'm not sure if during the weeklies that you were entering, or you were just kind of sticking with commentary.
No, I was sticking with commentary most of the time. I think I occasionally entered Grand Blue in the past few weeks, but other than that, I wasn't entering. I was just sticking it down. I get my movement confused from 3D fighter to 3D fighter. So
yeah, fair enough. And are you indulging much in Grand Blue or not, or in terms of playing?
Not hugely. I'm more just kind of soaking it up. I haven't had much time to play. I've finally got myself back into the grind of Calibur, so I'm just going to stick to that for now.
Yeah, nice, man. That's good stuff. I respect it. And I'm glad you're on the podcast, because I know normally this podcast is quite Tekken orientated. I'm pretty sure our background of the stream is Tekken orientated. But it's good to have you on, because I know you were part of the Soul Calibur community. And you've been repping that game since day, so it's good to have a different perspective for a different game. So again, shouts for coming through. I'll go with Sleeves next. Good old Sleeves. Talk us through your origin story, man. Like how you came to be within the community.
Yeah, it's just sort of like a lot of people. I think just playing when you're a kid. Street Fighter 2 on the SNES.
Old man.
Yeah, I'm old. But growing up, I'm lucky to have a training partner all the time, Matt Smith.
Yes, Matt Smith, brother of the legendary Matt. I've been playing Matt in fighting games since day, man. Back in Street Fighter 4 days. Goddamn, that Ibuki was annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you had to deal with that every day. So, God, shouts to you.
It's not fun for T-Hawk, that's for sure.
Yeah, that sounds like a bad
yeah. So just sort of growing up, but just been playing everything really, from sort of bit of Tekken, bit of Soul Calibur, bit of Dragon Ball Z, Budokai 3, bit of anything really. And but yeah, no, I just thought I had enough of Matt sort of beating me all the time, so get involved in the community, and yeah, been coming to weeklies for, well, I've been sort of on and off for a couple of years, but I've been trying to get a bit more involved in the last sort of 6 months, really.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I've definitely noticed that you've been definitely amongst it, especially in kind of like Discord and that as of recent. I think that's the beauty of Discord. Like you have that kind of community, that place of community online where you can you don't have to go everywhere. You don't have to go anywhere physically. You can just kind of hop on the laptop and be amongst the boys, be amongst the peoples. So yeah, no, it's good stuff. Good stuff. And last but not least, I got this dude. Look at this dude. I'm curious to hear this man's origin story, because I'm assuming that I'm definitely going to be in it, because we started this shit together. So George, tell him about it.
Well,
I'm going to make sure. I got to make sure it's right as well, because I'm going to make sure if it's accurate.
See, the thing is, it's hard because I played fighting games somewhat a little bit before, but I was trash. I'd never put effort into it. I was button mashing for days, getting bodied, just Alt F4 in, or turn off the Xbox, throwing controllers, all that kind of crap. But I think the proper time was when you bought it, was either X Tekken. I think it was X Tekken, and then you brought it over to mine, and we started playing it, and this is back with Tyler and stuff. And then we played it, and then you had 4 as well, but you had the old 4.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just decided outright to just buy me and you a copy of Street Fighter 4.
Oh yeah, you bought us I forgot about that.
I bought us both a copy of it, and I was yes, let's just try and play this game. I was absolute ass to begin with. I was Character Crisis Central, and I was still ass. But Street Fighter 4 was kind of where it began, and I only played probably 4. Played a bit of Marvel, and kind of those were my 2 games. And I think in terms of the scene, the first time I got involved in the scene was what stadium was that? Fucking.
So it was the first, because we essentially just both got into the scene at the same time, right? We both found out about. I remember there was that random guy in college. Yeah, there's that guy in college that he mentioned it. Do you remember ages ago? I don't even remember what the guy's name was called. He mentioned there's fighting games going on in Bristol. We never saw him there. When we turned up, he was never. He just said about it, and we just never heard from him again. But it was Sodium Showdown 11.
Oh yeah, it was, and that was the first one with Tommy P. That era.
Yeah. Ages ago. Because I don't know what Sodium we're on now. We're on, God knows how many Sodiums we're on now. But that's a long time ago.
But yeah, so I kind of played those, but nowadays don't really play all that much. Haven't really got the time with the job that I got, so being full time and just not having the time. But mainly just playing Tekken and still dabbling in Marvel when there is people playing it. So. Yeah.
Because I know obviously you purchased a couple DLCs recently, so you've been and I know you entered last Sunday's Waistman's Wi-Fi. Push my shit in losers. So it's still amongst it, which is always good to hear.
Yeah,
it's always good to hear. Best believe, me and Jordan start this thing together. Way back in the day, I remember during the first episode when I was doing my origin story, I mentioned how we used to go in Game Station every kind of weekend or so, just get co-op RPGs that we play on Xbox Live. And then I think that's when we switched. We just saw Street Fighter Cross Tekken, and we figured, oh yeah, we'll try a fighting game. It's a 2-player fighting game, so we thought we'd try that, and then it kind of evolved from there. And like you said, I think we realized that like across Tekken wasn't the main fighting game at the time. I think we realized it was Street Fighter, and that's why he got those copies for us.
Yeah. It was definitely something along those lines, wasn't it? It was it was definitely a different time, and it was real odd transition into fighting games, considering we used to play a lot of like just standard games like that you see everyone play, like FIFA, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, literally, yeah. Playing FIFA, Call of Duty, and we decided to kind of just go for fighting games. Went from disgusting, terrible pad players, got ourselves some sticks, and the rest is history, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Similar times, and it's funny that you mentioned like the mainstream games, because this is the kind of discussion I want to have. I feel like it's a discussion that's always being had anyway. So I thought kind of we dabble into it a little bit. The Holy Land that is mainstream games. We got. I mean, looking at my Twitter directory right now, we got the AAA, the champs. We got that. We got new. How do you say it? Valorant. I don't know how you actually
Valorant.
say it. Valorant. Yeah. Valorant killing it in terms of views. You got your League of Legends, your Call of Duties, your Counter Strikes. You got your Fortnites. You got your FIFAs, and and I'll keep scrolling. I still haven't found any fighting games. Still haven't found any fighting games.
It's almost like a taboo, isn't it?
Yeah, and then I found Tekken. Tekken on a couple thousand views. So this is kind of what I wanted to speak about. I feel like with recent fighting games, they're trying to tailor it so it's a bit easier. So newer players come in, and obviously they want new people to buy their game, increase the community and things like that. How do you propose that they do that though? Because like making games easier is all well and good, but is that enough to bring fighting games to the mainstream to get those views? Like how? Like, do you think they're along the right lines? What do we think? What do we think about how they're doing?
Making them easier. That's certainly an okay start. The problem is you want to try and make things more accessible without making them like dumbing them down. So I feel like the way that developers are going at the moment. Obviously, I'm not a developer. I don't know anything about developing games, but I feel like they need to like lessen down on the mechanics and going, oh, this is more accessible, and go for things that people want. Like games are releasing, I've noticed, with very, very few characters at the moment. Just add a few characters in at launch, and I think that will help initial sales because you'll just have more people, more variety, and that will make more people happy.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that it's interesting that you consider that as a way to get more people involved, more people that might not be new to fighting games involved. But they would respond that the exact reason why they probably come out with fewer characters is so that they can copy the season pass kind of idea from all these AAA games, because they're always what game isn't coming out with like a season pass? You know what I mean? You get these like battle passes for these shooters and stuff. You got, I know, these sports games got like FIFA, they got their packs. That's how they get their money in. And I think fighting games, they figure, we got to get some more money, and with season passes, that's what they're going for. So of course there's a conflict between getting that money and getting them new players. Salif, you've been amongst the community. Like has there been a certain thing that's made you get into a fighting game, or like is there some that's like that catches your eye that they might have done with like their game? Or
it's sort of a tricky one, really. It's because it's like Cookweave was saying. There's a point where you can sort of make it more accessible in terms of like gameplay, sort of more lenient inputs, that sort of thing. I think can help get people involved. To a point though, when you start, I think this is a problem that like Street Fighter 5 had, for instance. Like it was maybe too simple, and then every match looks the same, and that's, I think, what starts to put people off when they feel like they're just watching the same thing over and over again. You have to sort of allow for sort of growth of players, allow for different tactics to evolve. That's why games that are as simple as like Counter Strike, which is been pretty much the same since 1.6. Really, I mean,
it's the same
Yeah.
formula.
yeah,
I think that's the thing. They follow the same basis, and they keep that basis going. But with new generations, they add and tweak things. Like you'll hear from a lot of people who are professionals, so to speak, in that game, and they will say that CS 1.6, for instance, is completely different to CS:GO because it's built off a foundation rather than cut and paste.
yeah.
So,
And do we find that fighting games are like a bit more cut and paste then, rather than just kind of like? So it sounds like with Counter-Strike, they've got their foundation. They've never gotten rid of that foundation. They've merely just added to it. Whereas fighting games might be a bit more, be gone with what was before, and then like here's the new thing.
I mean,
it's a hard one, isn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely tricky because you don't want things to stay the same all the time, but but at the same time you don't want to alienate people. It's such a fine line. Like, I think part of why Tekken has kind of exploded in the last few years is because the basic formula hasn't changed much since Tekken 5, and suddenly that's allowed people to sort of carry over their skills and sort of build and build and build until we get into the ridiculous levels of Tekken 7 now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we find sorry, go on.
Well, I was just gonna say, I think that's a very good point. I think the difference is, I think that is why Tekken 7's done so well. Is that I know with the current season, it's made quite a few issues, but at the same time, the game itself is a good game that it's built around. There is nothing wrong with Tekken, so to speak. The patch itself, in terms of balancing, could be better, but the actual formula that it's following, the actual fundamentals that it's following, it's very well presented, and that's where Street Fighter 5 fell, because they decided to go with a whole new formula and drop the whole, what Street Fighter 4 had going for itself, and they decided to bank on something completely new, and that doesn't always work.
Yeah,
as we found out.
I think you begin to lose people.
The idea of Tekken doing such a so well, yeah, I think it is down to the fact it's legacy, and I think actually building on that point a little bit, I feel like the reason why season 3 is not so liked is because it is going in a different direction to what the legacy format is, because everything does a load more damage now. Everything just takes you to the wall, and the game. Like, I think people are getting really mad with it because they feel the game it's feeling a bit more fundamentally different.
Yeah.
Not necessarily better or worse, but just fundamentally different.
Yeah.
And they want their old stuff, and yeah, people don't like change.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly where I was just going to use. People hate change, and people are stubborn in those ways.
Yeah, but even as someone that's like, I've not really played a Tekken like since Tekken 7. This is my first Tekken. I mean, and I'm pretty sure Street Fighter Cross Tekken does not count.
No, it doesn't.
No, okay, cool. Just had to make sure. So yeah, this is my first Tekken. So I have no real familiarity with this kind of formula that gets mentioned. I understand the concept. Obviously, I don't know it personally because I don't have that legacy background from Tekken. But already within these seasons, I can already tell that this is just like, it seems to me that they almost kind of, as strange to put it, they almost kind of blew their load in seasons 1 and 2. And I feel like in season 3, we've got so many characters. Like, they don't really know what to do now. And obviously, they don't want to make a new game just yet. They want to keep pumping it out. They want to keep pumping out Pro Tours. So they don't really know what to do next. And I feel like they seem to be experimenting, making, and we've seen in patch notes, they're making these weird ass changes where the community is just like, what's going on with this game? You see it on Twitter, people love to complain on Twitter. And you see it on Twitter, people are not feeling like where the game's going. There was a big rejoice with the recent patch because they reverted some weird ass changes. So yeah, I don't really know what they're doing. But I feel like they're out of ideas, and this is kind of what happens when you like move away from like the fundamental aspects of Tekken or aspects of games. As you mentioned, we see like Counter-Strike, they've got their foundation and they're merely just kind of added to it Yeah, they kind of merely add to it a little bit, and they've not really touched it much since. Same as like League of Legends. League of Legends, they have made changes. You've seen changes to like the map, and obviously meta changes, new characters and stuff. But it's still fresh. The game's still like the same. Played so much. So I feel like with fighting games, I think it's just there's definitely more of an uproar when there's like a slight there's a slight change. There's definitely more of an uproar.
I think with the competition that's out as well, I think a lot of these companies are trying to match the hype factor that all these other games bring. So with Season 3 changes, it was a lot more, like mentioned, wall carries, a lot more just upfront damage. And I think a lot of that is because in terms of a viewing aspect, when you don't see a lot of shit going on screen, it can seem boring to the casual viewer.
Mm-hmm.
So like for instance, if I was like still casually playing like Tekken or whatever back in the day, I probably wouldn't have watched it in the early days because everything takes a while to get going. So it's like it's a completely different game really. But the viewing aspect at the moment, some people say like there's like 2 combos and you can die. In a sense, as long as it hits the wall, you're probably going to die.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I've definitely done 2 combos.
So it's like
they're you can definitely tell that they're trying to add the excitement. I think they've maybe gone about it in the wrong way.
Yeah.
I mean, part of why Tekken 7 was so like, I think had this little burst in popularity was the little hype things they added at the beginning. The slow motion, the rage, sort of added that excitement. I think now you've gone overboard, and although it sort of aesthetically looks amazing that all these cool flashy things are happening and you die really quickly, I think people are actually very quick to figure out like, well, actually I know when this game is over. The tension's not there anymore.
Yeah.
Competition wise, I agree. I think for the viewing aspect, it is what they want, but it's just not. It's not good for a gameplay aspect. It hinders the player's experience heavily if you make 2 mistakes and you're dead. It's like, I understand that in Marvel, I understand that in other games of that livelihood, because that is what the game is centered around. But when the past, however many versions of Tekken we've had now, including the tag series, it's a very odd experience, I think, for people. And I played like Tekken 3 when I was younger, and then I've played Tekken Tag Tourney 2 as a casual user, but playing this one seriously, it is really demotivating. And I play Marvel, but it is demotivating as hell to get killed in 2 combos when I've made slightest error in my gameplay.
Yeah.
Or I've made the wrong read. So
yeah, God forbid that you can make a single mistake or whatever. But if I may go back a little bit, there was a point that I'm not sure who it was that made it, but about the slow-mo and about the slow-mos and like the rage usage, and I think that that's actually a really good example of how to get the hype building without hurting the game. So people will be able to see it, and because I mean, you've seen what people do, and for a lack of a better term, if you have like a hype match and you're in a major event, like if there's a slow-mo, people are going to shit their pants.
Yeah, for sure, 100%. I mean, even when I'm playing ranked and there's a slow-mo, I get a bit hype.
Yeah, even I think half the time, I'm a bit more casual, but like that slow-mo hits, and I'm playing, I don't know what's going to happen,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, for sure. But then the fact that you can do 2 combos into death, it could be argued that this is the game tailoring itself to beginners, because offense is a lot easier than defending, right? So maybe this could be seen in Street Fighter 5. That game is literally just move forward and press buttons 5. Like it's just offense fighter 5. They reduced the defensive options in that game compared to Street Fighter 4. All for the reason of just making it a bit easier. But isn't that like a bit detrimental, like for new players? Because essentially they're just going to get bodied by getting hit twice. So is that really bringing new players in, or is that really just kind of making people definitely not want to play the game because they don't want to get touched twice and lose?
It's a weird one. really. Yeah, it kind of it's like a double-edged sword because yeah, you had the point where you say you get met up with someone who is better than you. They have fundamentals from previous play or whatever, and yet they know how to block these things. But I feel like when you just have like most players they're not gonna go to tournaments, they're not gonna enter online, they're not gonna go to their locals, they're just gonna sit at home, play online, and match 3 with Cat or something. Um, but when you get 2 people who are literally just fisty bumps or whatever, and they're just whacking each other. They don't care about offense. They like the fact that it's just like, I hit you first, I can do a lot of damage, and it's just kind of the way that they can just pitbull and tiger and whatever animal that's ferocious, and they can just do it, and they'll have fun with the game.
Yeah, and it goes without saying that obviously there's this one theme that's with fighting games, and I feel like it'll always be with fighting games. That you can't blame anyone for a loss. You see these games, you see your MOBAs especially, where you're with a team, and there's that guy in bot lane who's just feeding, and he's like, oh no, we lost because we had a feeder. Oh, we lost because we had this. What, someone was AFK. There's always that ability to pass the blame to someone else. So you don't have to blame yourself because he was playing ass. He wasn't playing very well. Whereas in fighting games, there's no one to blame other than yourself. I mean, don't get me wrong, Badger correctly interjects and says, people still blame their characters. But at the end of the day, you're controlling the character. So I feel like this is one thing in fighting games, unless they make a MOBA fighting game. I don't think that's a thing. I don't think that'll ever be a thing.
No.
But I feel like that element of like there's no excuse, like you lost because you lost. That'll always be with fighting games, and that'll always might be a deterrent for getting people on board.
I think I kind of get that. Yeah, you're sort of looking at what a lot of the popular games are. Counter-Strike. I nearly said TF2. Overwatch. Massive. They're all team games. They're very easy to get into because, as you said, it's you don't know the full effect of what you're doing, what you're contributing to the team. So you feel great when you're carried, and when you lose, it's someone else's fault.
Yeah. So
fighting games, there's nothing to hide behind except for, well, as you said, your character maybe.
It's the protection of ego, really. That it's just in general, it's just your nature. It's just the nature of the genre is you're gonna hit people, and you're just gonna hit someone, and they're gonna sweep you, and you're gonna feel bad. It's gonna suck, and then you maybe don't want to play anymore. But I think it's just kind of getting around that mindset of making losing suck slightly less, which is counterintuitive and ridiculously hard to do. But if there's a way to do it, by God, that game will be huge.
Yeah.
I think the other thing is that there's the social aspect. So as much as like obviously the fighting game community, there's community behind it. Like, we're all in one. But the thing that we don't, I think, is the other side of the coin is that when you're playing against someone, it's just you and that person, like it's already been mentioned. But for instance, when I play like League of Legends or I play like Counter-Strike or something, I'm playing with like another 4 other friends of mine, and it's like it makes it a bit more like interactive. It's not brain dead, so to speak, but it's not complacent where it's just like, all right, rematch. It could be a bit different every time because with the other games necessarily, there's other things going on and there's other personalities within the professional scene. It's a lot easier to follow people when it comes to other scenes. I think fighting game communities, I find it hard to follow a lot of it. I think everything is everywhere, and it feels like it's all a bit of a mess at times.
Yeah.
When it comes to like following, League's the easiest one because everything is shoehorned into one area. It's all, in a sense, governed by Riot. They have it their way or no way, in a sense. But because of that, I can easily find results. I can easily find, how my favorite team's getting on. I can easily find out, who's on what team now. Whilst with like the fighting game community, I struggle to find who's still sponsored, who's still traveling to events. Why can't this person travel to events anymore? This kind of thing. It's the social aspect it can be lacking at times because of the hard tracking behind the scene.
Yeah.
And I think it's a bit tricky because, where do you, in terms of like Reddit or something, to find news on what's going on, your choices are limited to things like r/Kappa, which is just not a great place to be for a lot of people.
Is that place still a thing? Is that place? I didn't really use Reddit, so I'm not really clear up on Reddit. Is that still a thing or Kappa?
Yeah.
It's just more just people antagonizing each other than actually people sharing what's going on and actual sort of news about fighting game stuff.
Yeah,
so
that sounds like Reddit.
there's no central hub.
Yeah, that sounds like Reddit for sure. So we got so we mentioned like the social aspects as well. Going to the chat, something got mentioned as well, which I definitely agree with. So if I can find it, Matt Smith, Steve, you might know him. He mentioned something that's quite interesting. That fighting games, something that may be stopping it from getting into the mainstream, is that it is for a specific kind of person or a specific kind of nature of a person. To get into fighting games and to stick with it, you do need thick skin. Because obviously when it comes to learning fighting games, and this did get mentioned in the last podcast that I did with Gabe, you're going to get bodied like a lot to begin with. And to be honest, a lot of people just can't deal with, they just don't want to deal with that. They don't want to deal with constantly losing, constantly getting like battered. And to integrate what Grievers was saying as well, no one wants to get bodied and then having to wait 3 to 5 minutes for the next game.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about both, like obviously netcode as an issue as well, because obviously as we were playing these fighting games, we'll go into ranked. Say use Tekken 7 for example. You go into ranked, you gotta pick your character, and then there's a little load screen, and then you got like the online training mode thing, and you gotta wait in there. And then someone you got a bit set, they might accept, they might not. And then you go into another loading screen, you see their rank, into another loading screen, intros, then go. And you might only get one game because they might like not bother playing you again after you win or lose.
And even if you do get the next game, a good example of Tekken 7 is it is literally again just bop, you're in. Like you go into the loading screen, you see that picture that you saw at the beginning of the fight, and then you go through the intros again and again, and it takes ages, and it just it takes a long time for a very short thing in reality.
Yeah.
I mean, you really only have to look at the last Waistman Wi-Fi.
Oh boy!
What some of the problems are, because
yeah,
in terms of organizers, it couldn't have gone better. Like everyone was sort of doing everything that they possibly could to make it the smoothest experience, and yet lobbies are imploding, loading times are atrocious.
Oh, it was so funny.
And all I can hope for is that the next generation of consoles, which are much more reliant on SSDs, and we're talking sort of 10 times faster loading times.
Oh,
hopefully some of these things can be resolved, but
SSDs.
Fingers crossed.
SSDs, based SSDs. But yeah, why are we in 2020 and lobbies are still scuffed? Like, come on.
Okay, so this is the thing that really grinds my gears in terms of fighting games of this current year, is that, right, I love Marvel, right? And that online is ass. But shall I tell you what's not ass? Instant bloody rematches. The fact that I can go into a player match on a game that's netcode is absolute ass. And I can instant rematch people. If I got a good connection against someone, like I play Maisie, or every now and again, like I play someone else. If my connection is good and their connection is good, it is like I'm playing like 30 games within like 20 minutes or less. But in Tekken, I play about 5 in 30 minutes. Because I've got to, press rematch. All right, and I've got to load it all up, back up again. All right, then let's play that one again. We're in a 3-man. All right, spin it around. Let's just, let's roll the wheel again. It's like everything takes so damn long. Why is it that developers just don't see the fact that they need to have, like, if you want to keep people engaged and you want them to play your games more, you need less loading. That's why a lot of these PC, like, esports are so, like, big, because it's so quick to get into a game. All right, maybe MOBAs are a bit different because you got like champ selects and all that kind of stuff. But when it comes to Counter-Strike, for instance, the only time I have to wait really is when I'm actually searching for a map. Other than that, as soon as I'm in, I'm pretty much shooting people instantly.
Yeah.
It's like there's no real downtime. But with fighting games of this genre, Street Fighter 5 especially, I dropped that game in Season 1 because of how ass that online was. But Street Fighter 5, it's like you sit there, you wait for a game, and it's like, get ready for your next bout. And then also it's just like you're sat there and you're waiting. It's like, what's going on? You're sat there for 5 minutes waiting for your next game. It's like there's so much with the netcode that they needs to be resolved in the next gen. And I don't think SSDs are actually going to do it. I think what's actually needs to be done is developers need to get off their asses. They need to be pushed really to stop these whole walls that keep coming up with the whole loading screens. They seem to have these filler periods where they have so many loading screens.
Why is that? Why is that a thing then? Why do we think that's a thing? Like, is it necessary? Is it a necessity? Like, in 2020, is it a necessity?
It's not. It really isn't a necessity. And I'm going to actually throw in a point. There is the more of the more recent games. I've not played enough of most recent games, but from what I can tell, Granblue has this where you literally just hit rematch, boom, you're back in the game.
Yeah.
You're back at the intros. And even going far back as late 2018, because Caliber has that as well. If you're in a lobby, it took them a while to integrate it because those lobbies were at launch, they were absolutely atrocious. But they have now got it that you're in the lobby, you just hit rematch, the screen goes black for like half a second. And then you're back in the game. It's fast and it feels good. Even on consoles, it feels really nice.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I don't want to bring up the forbidden game on this podcast, but from a casual perspective, something like Super Smash Brothers.
Banned.
Smash Brothers Ultimate just does not load. It's so quick, and I can see why. It's like, if you count it as a fighting game right now, it's it's the one with the most viewers on Twitch at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, some of that has to be that it's simple to get into. But,
yeah, I won't lie. Yeah, I won't lie. I've got a Switch. I've got a Nintendo Switch. I don't have it. Well, I don't have it now. My girlfriend robbed it from me to play Animal Crossing. I got like the Smash version of the Switch. And I'll dabble with a bit of Smash. I barely know what I'm doing, but I know enough where I'll just like troll, play. I know who do I used to play? Like Isabel, just trolling.
Oh God.
And yeah, the game, when you find someone, the games are pretty quick. Obviously, I think a lot of people do complain. I mean, not long ago, I saw on Twitter, the people were complaining again about like the netcode for Smash, and people aren't a fan of it. It seems like, but yeah, the games. Despite that, the games are pretty quick.
Yeah. If they fixed the netcode, and if the Switch wasn't so reliant on Wi-Fi, having to literally buy Ethernet extensions.
Oh yeah, that's whack. Yeah,
like
that's
that's
whack.
terrible. But in terms of the actual lobby system and everything, works completely fine, and you can rematch people really quickly as well. As Grievous just said in the chat, Pokken had a godlike system as well. It's a weird world when Nintendo's making the best lobbies.
Don't you find it that it's so interesting that the games that have the games that don't really like take off, like the mainstream fighting games, like your Street Fighters and your Tekkens, a lot of them seem to have pretty decent netcode and pretty decent like online play. So like right now we're seeing like Pokemon was pretty decent. Skullgirls is really good apparently. I've not played any. I heard it's really
absolutely wonderful.
Yeah. I believe that Power Rangers Battle for the Grid's got pretty good Wi-Fi as well. Or not Wi-Fi, but
when
online.
it works.
Yeah.
When it works.
Yeah.
If it works, but I've heard good things about that game.
Yeah, and it seems to be that like the games that aren't taken off are like the netcode and like how they do it seems to be okay, but it seems like the main fighting games could you say that they're cutting corners because they know they know that they're Street Fighter and they know that they're Tekken, so they know they don't really have to bring out the bucks for strong online play.
That's exactly it, isn't it? It's because they know their they know their brand. They know that people will just see the name. Look at Street Fighter, for instance. Street Fighter 5 was absolutely abysmal compared to its like previous actual gameplay side of things. But that shit sold. We can't deny that shit sold. But the online's ass, the gameplay's ass. They cut so many corners. They scuffed their own in-game currency just to kind of make it a bit more harder for people to earn that in-game cash. It's like the developers like Capcom and Namco, not necessarily Namco because, like was mentioned, Soul Calibur, they're not actually that bad. The Soul Calibur side of things is actually quite good. So that team's good. But it just seems like, depending on what developer you're getting, they will be lazy about it. And they will cut the corners to, save that extra bit of money because they're like, well, we're going to make 200% profit anyway, and we don't give a shit, really.
Yeah. I'm going to just add to that again. With the whole, of course, I'm going to defend my game till the day I die. But yeah, with like the games like things like Soul Calibur, the community is more niche. So they know that they're going to have fewer people playing the game, so they want to appeal to the people that are playing them.
My Virgin Media just came
disconnect. But yeah, as I was saying, they know, because when I was out in Japan a few months ago, I actually met with the developer, and he's there. He listens to literally everything that anyone says. He goes up to other players and he comes to tournaments with like a notebook, I'm pretty sure, like just noting down what people want, and if he hears it a lot, he goes and adds it.
That's super good though. Like that transparency and just clear communication. Sounds familiar, doesn't it, Tekken? Clear communication.
Clear communication. Yeah, that's why we got your producer, because he's good.
Yeah, man, just got communication, please. I mean, again, that might be another thing that might stop in fighting game from going into the mainstream. Like I used the example the other week where patches for like the likes of League of Legends and that is super clear, super concise. But some games some fighting games are just like terrible. It's like Tekken with their communication is terrible. Not all fighting games, because I believe Cookweave, am I right in saying that Soul Calibur is pretty good for that kind of thing?
Yeah, we're really good for that. Even patch notes themselves, they have their aims of what they do with they want to do with the patch notes, so you can see what they were thinking. But yeah, with Tekken, it's just make this change. Hell Sweep now tracks. Oh, sorry, I mentioned the almighty banned horrible change that they made.
Yeah, and then they bring out patches that are like it's got like hieroglyphics in it for the inputs, and it's just
this is what's going on. You look at so I'm not like super up to date on MOBAs. I used to be big into Heroes of the Storm. Obviously, Blizzard's pretty good with their patch notes. And like you said, it's sort of similar to the Soul Calibur ones. They tell you their aims of why they've changed these things. And you can kind of get into their heads and see what they're doing. And it just instantly builds a connection with your fan base. Like, oh, I can see why they've changed that. Fighting games, Christ knows why this certain character suddenly just, got worse. Why is Vega suddenly just been nerfed in Street Fighter 5 when he was terrible anyway? No explanation.
Yeah, no explanation. That it occurs far too much.
I think that's a good point that was brought up in terms of the MOBA side of things. Is that when patch notes or any kind of patches happen in general, when it comes to fighting games, it is vague. It's bare bones. You have to figure things out yourself. They give you numbers, but they don't actually tell you why they've done the change. Which is all great having the numbers, but someone like me, for instance, I pay casually like, yeah, all right. I can still play the game, but I don't know frame data to save my life. Like, so if I don't know why they changed it, I ain't gonna know until I've actually played the game again. But stuff like League of Legends or Counter-Strike don't have as many updates, for instance, but when they do updates, it's because they've listened to feedback off the community, and they're trying to take into account as to what's happening. One of the big issues in Counter-Strike scene, meant like 2 or 3 years ago now, was it was a revolver that just got released, but it was obnoxious. It was being used in tournaments over, guns that were priced 5 times as much, some 4 times as much, and it was just being used because it was just too broken. So what they had to do was they had to suspend the patch for any tournaments, and they were playing on previous patches because of it. And any tournaments that Valve were affiliated with, they were not allowing them to use it. And the same goes for League. They will make sure at the start of their patch notes, if it's a patch that is quite big, it's not just a filler patch where they're just doing a few bug fixes. They will suggest, right, this is our aim for this. They will tell you exactly what they're trying to do. Right, this is purely for the Juggernaut side of things. We want to improve them for this. We want to make them more impactful in the late game, for instance. But when I look at Tekken patches, the last patch that came out, I looked at it and I was like, right, what are all these numbers? I'm like seeing loads of signs. I'm seeing right, I don't play this character, so what the hell is this? It's like, but when I go onto the move list on the Tekken actual training mode, it's a move list. So why are you not naming that instead of just telling me it's like a frigging quarter circle back 4 and all this kind of stuff? It's like I'm not going to sit there and look through that in the move list. It's like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that the fighting game community can learn from, not necessarily go in esports, but from esports in general and how they communicate and present themselves to the public.
Yeah, I mean, fighting games are well amongst. They're well into the whole esports. Where esports is fully amongst the fighting game community. That kind of goes without saying. How do we all just briefly? How do we all feel about esports? Have you seen esports? Are we all on board? Are we all like miss me with that? What are we thinking about esports?
I think anything that brings more people to the table, more people to come and play the game, and more people to be excited about it, is for the better, really.
Yeah, I respect it.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say at first it was a bit like, I'm not sure, because a lot of tournaments definitely changed. A lot of tournaments that I enjoyed watching changed and tailored itself to esports just to get that esports money. The main example being the likes of like Evo. It's gone from Evo being in like a hotel room, like fully stacked. You can feel the atmosphere through your headphones. To like an arena, which is just for me, like that's not. It's kind of like killed Evo being Evo. Like in my opinion, it's changed my view of the best tournament no longer being Evo and now being the likes of like Combo Breaker or CEO, because it's not really changed despite the whole esports thing. It's still the same format, similar venues. They have their own. Those tournaments have still maintained their personality, whereas Evo just seems like they're going for like that League of Legends Worlds kind of vibe, where it's all like big stadium kind of feel.
A bit of a sort of a clinical feel to it.
Yeah.
I get that, and I think that's the main reason why a lot of people are actually against esports in general, is because they feel like it will take the soul out of FGC. Like, because we're a rowdy bunch, really.
Yeah, that's
we're rowdy. We like yelling at people. But yeah, I think people think that we get to. Yeah, I can see Grievous agreeing. That we get to esports and it's just like it suddenly turns into golf clapping and silent whispers. And yeah, as you said, Evo has become. I mean, Evo Japan. Day 2 was fine because the main area where they had the big stream and stuff, was smaller. So when you had smaller, you had more people in the same place, and it was great. I know that a lot of people actually said that day 2 was a lot better than day 3. That may also have had something to do. But again, day 3, they had this giant hall. And I mean, it was absolutely enormous. And they had that full front to back, just full of chairs. And
yeah, that's what you want.
it felt like a North Korean, like bloody supreme leader is going to come up and do a speech. Honestly, the way it's just all lined up, and yeah, it was kind of soulless.
Yeah. But esports is soulless. Esports does bring that soullessness. And by all means, the money, as Grievous mentioned in the chat, by all means, and Matt Smith as well, by all means, bring in the money. Let some people, make a livelihood out of this stuff. I'm all for it. But I think, do we think shareholders are kind of influencing it a bit too much? Do we find that the likes of do we feel like the likes of like Capcom are kind of just like toe tapping to get their money from the shareholders?
Yes, it's because the thing is like the reason a lot of esports work is because they're, like was already mentioned, they're not rowdy. They have a set banter that they can follow, and they can't exceed that line. Riot, for instance, in terms of league, now, as much as it is criticised what they do, they bring in a hell of a lot of money. The players that play for the teams are very secured, and they have a lot of protection in regards to that. And I know there is also unions in regards to it as well. So in terms of the money side of things, it is a very well-off place to be. And that's why even like what's considered academy players, which is people who play in the lower leagues, they still are well off. They're still earning very well to just sit at home and play League of Legends for 8 hours a day. Like they don't have to have a proper job. They can just sit there and be an academy player. But
that's super interesting. The fact that academy sounds super interesting. Like when I think academy, I think like kind of like football academies.
Well, that's how it is in a sense. Yeah. So they have their own league. There's the upper league, which, for instance, in the NALCS or the LCS now, they've all abbreviated their names completely differently because now they follow they're branded differently. So there's no such thing as regulations or anything like that. There's nothing like that. Everyone has to buy in. Now, I don't know if anyone followed Overwatch. They attempted something very similar. Orgs had to buy in order to have their spot. It didn't work out as well in Overwatch, but in terms of League of Legends, it works out quite well. And the way Riot went about it was that you had to bid for your spot, but then they would do an independent background check themselves to see if you are actually able to keep your players alive in their league. They didn't want a random person bid in and then, starving their players completely dry until they're physically unable to play. And academy players was where a lot of these players get taken from, or they may be just developing, younger talent. Exactly the same as football.
That sounds like exactly what academy.
Yeah.
From grassroots football, from a football aspect, from grassroots football all the way through academy, and then obviously professional, you kind of see that similar structure.
Yeah, that's what it would be. You'd find a lot of younger players in there, they've just come out of college or whatever it may be. They've just turned 18, 19, they've hit the academy league, and they've decided to, endeavor into the League of Legends scene, and this is where they've started. They've been picked up by, TSM's academy team, and that's how they've developed. But at the same time, the other side to the coin of as great as it is for the money side of things is that Riot really has to skimp in terms of what they're chatting about, and they have to make sure their content is always pre-made. So anything that's spoke about on League is completely scripted. There is nothing on there that is not scripted, obviously, other than the results and the interview questions, in a sense, because they're made up prior whilst the games are being played. But they can't cross the line. There was a commentator who said the wrong thing, and he got taken off air, and he didn't come back.
Ooh,
And there's also another commentator who, because he showed up late, because how it worked with Worlds was they were playing in Korea, and he had to stream from NA in order to cast it. He was late, and he disappeared again as well. They are very strict, and that's the thing, because the shareholders, and like Matt Smith said, the issue is that the shareholders in a lot of places with the Overwatch scene, they wanted one thing, they wanted to follow this, they wanted to follow that, but it can't work like that. It has to, work organically. With the fighting game scene, I could see it working, but people are scared of taking that dive because they don't want to lose the soul and the essence of what makes fighting games, so good to be a part of. I'm happy to be part of this community, even though I don't play often. Yeah,
it's because you don't want things to get so clinical that you lose all of the massive personalities in the game. I can't remember his name. I watched a documentary recently on a professional FIFA player. I didn't even know that FIFA esports was a thing. And I'm not surprised that I didn't know, because apparently the whole community is sort of so heavily moderated by EA and everyone. One of the top players was constantly winning, but he also kept constantly criticizing FIFA for the direction it was going in.
Oh yeah,
So they just
yes, I
banned
remember seeing this. Yeah.
They were like, "Nah, we don't want this guy. Just ban him." So, and then you lose all the characters, and then you're just watching this just clinical, boring esport, and it dies. FIFA has every potential to be this huge thing, but as long as companies have a stranglehold on it like that, no one wants to play.
Yeah, I remember seeing that guy literally, like, it seemed like he just got like to silence. He kind of just got like taken away from the spotlight. Like I said, he was winning everything, voicing his opinion, and then they just kind of just hypothetically, he didn't actually assassinate him, but they really just like cut him off, they really cut him off.
North Korea, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. It did come across like that. See, I'm not okay. So we're at an hour. I'm not. I do want to mention. There's one more thing that I want to mention, but I'm not sure if I should hold off and make this a part 2, because I'm really enjoying this conversation. I think this topic is super interesting, and this can go on for hours. I'm deciding whether I should mention what I want to mention, or whether not to, and just make it a part 2.
It could be worth making a part 2.
I think
it's quite a lengthy discussion.
Yeah, so
making it.
I think I'll hold on to it. I'll make this a part 2. There is one more thing that will be a bit shorter that I do want to bring up, and then we'll call it a close, because this is lit. This conversation, I do love this conversation. It's a super interesting topic. So do you think? Do you guys think that fighting games have a responsibility to develop their games to be suited to new players, or do you think they should keep their already existing community in mind over new players?
No.
It's so tricky, but I think the future is getting new people in.
It's a hard one to tell, because it all depends on what do you want your game to be. If you want it to be a casual game, fine. That's absolutely fine. But there is games out there that have been out for years. I think the best example would be Marvel vs. Capcom 2. That game, came out, God knows how long ago now, and it's suddenly been brought back to life. Obviously, not with COVID-19 being around, but it has been brought back to life thanks to Yipes.
Yeah,
that
game came out in 2000, the year 2000. Yeah,
exactly. That is 20 years old, and he has brought it back to life like it was still popping.
Yeah.
It all depends on what you want your game to be. If you want it to be a casual game, you want it to be profitable, and you want that kind of success, by all means, you should probably make it a casual game. But if you want livelihood in a game, it needs to have a grind to it, and it needs to have a heart and soul that you could put into it. Because if you haven't, you need to recycle and you need to rehash your game all the time. You need to make new content. I mean, look at FIFA. That game, you can only play it. I didn't play it anymore, but like the amount of copies I've bought every year because I was just like, all right, I'll play it for 3 months. Oh, it's a bit boring now. Oh, new one's out. Cool, I'll play this for another 3 months.
It used to be just that game that you just bought just because.
Yeah.
Like, oh, what if the boys come over? Oh, you might want to like put the FIFA on. Like, it's just that was literally that game, innit? Yeah, it was mad.
As for me, what I would say, long answer is both yes and no. Again, I will bring up Caliber because that's my knowledge. And that did it very well by bringing back things that old players liked, like the better movement. But also bringing in new mechanics like the super meter. They kept meter in that game. Every character can just do crazy shit, and it's flashy yet still feels like an old game. So it's just finding that balance, I think, between what new mechanics will appeal to older players and what new mechanics will appeal to younger players, whilst keeping it feeling similar.
I think, and you know, what's in common with a lot of these popular ones as well is whether you like them or hate them, is probably guest characters. That's a whole other thing, and it's definitely worth probably having a part 2 because I could go on all day about like guest characters, you know.
Yeah, no, we'll definitely have a part 2. This conversation isn't really one that lasts only an hour, to be honest. So it's a super interesting topic. Just to give a bit of a teaser for next episode, as to what I did want to mention. I wanted to ask you guys the question, people in the podcast, people in the chat as well, and even the people that are watching it with the VOD. Let us know in the comments on that. Is Riot going to be the saving grace for fighting games? Will they bless us? Will they bless us with the views, with the clicks, with the player base?
We don't want an answer now, do we?
No.
Okay, cool.
No.
Oh yeah, because I can answer that all day, boy.
Because been thinking about that all week, definitely.
Because I know Isaac's in the back saying, "No, man, I want to sleep, man. Come on, I'm tired. I don't want to stream this no more." So we'll leave it there. This is a super interesting conversation that can go on and on and on. So yeah, no, I want to shout out everyone for watching. The hour went super quick, by the way. I didn't even realize it was an hour.
Yeah, no, my missus is like in the other room, like saying like, "What the hell's holding you up?"
Yeah,
I thought it was gonna be a half hour, and now I'm like hour 20 in. Like,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it went super fast, but shouts to everyone on there. Shouts to of course Badger for holding it down in the back. Shouts to Cookweave, Jordan, Sleeves. Cookweave, I'm pretty sure you have a kind of podcast coming up, right? Soul Calibur kind of thing.
It's from my other team. If you saw the notification on Twitter, I'm also part of Team Floofy. And I'm going to be heading that their podcast. We're hoping to get that live probably sometime this weekend, pre-recorded, unfortunately. But I will be linking that on my Twitter and letting you guys know so you can listen to it too.
Yeah, awesome, man. Yeah. I'll definitely be doing that. I'll definitely be getting involved with that. So yeah, obviously we'll be here again on Sunday for the Wi-Fi tournament. Hopefully not as many desyncs. It was so bad. Sunday.
We're on Tekken's on PS4. Yeah, we're all good, boys.
Oh yeah, that's great. More Wi-Fi, more people on Wi-Fi probably. Got that. It was so bad. I mean, it was like an 8-man bracket. And it lasted 3 hours for an 8-man bracket. That is just crazy to me. Funny enough, now if you look at the VOD, like the VOD for Grand Blue, which was I think a 5-man tournament or Grand Robin, was an hour and 15 minutes. Tekken 7 was 3 hours long, and it was only like a 7-8-man bracket, double 11. Like,
and they weren't all on stream either.
Yeah, they weren't even all on stream. It's just so bad, man. Like Tekken, man, come on, man. We love your game, but just like the online so ass. But yeah, again, thanks everyone for watching. Please come back for Sunday for the tournament. Tuesday again, we'll have a part 2. We'll talk about base gods Riot. Will they save us? Bring us into the holy land of the 100,000 views. and that all that esports money. But yeah, that's that. No, peace out. Thanks for watching. Hopefully see you Sunday. And definitely see you next Tuesday.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on, guys. Appreciate it.
GG's.
Yeah, GG's. Catch you guys
Thank you
later.
very much.
GG's.